it begins quietly. Not with shouting, not with open threats. It starts with small things. A comment that makes you second-guess yourself. A guilt trip that makes you feel like you owe them something. A quiet pressure to explain, defend, or prove yourself. On the surface, it doesn't look like control, but underneath, there's one goal: to get a reaction out of you. Because if they can control your reaction, they can control your day, your decisions, and, eventually, how you see yourself. In this video, I want to show you a different way, a Stoic way. How to stay calm, clear, and unbothered when someone tries to pull your strings, so you keep your power, without shouting, without drama, and without becoming cold or shut down inside. Let's start with what control really looks like in everyday life. To stay unbothered, we first need to be honest about what bothered actually means. Being bothered isn't just someone said something rude, it's that flash inside you, the tight chest, the rush of heat, the urge to explain, defend, or attack. On the outside, it looks like you're reacting to them. But on the inside, something else is happening. Your mind is making a very fast judgment. This is a threat to my dignity, to my importance, to my control over this situation. That judgment is what stirs you up. Not the words by themselves, not the tone by itself, but what your mind decides those things mean about you. The Stoics understood this clearly. We're not disturbed by events themselves, but by the stories we attach to them. So when you feel bothered, it's not proof that the other person is powerful. It's proof that a story has been triggered inside you. Unbothered doesn't mean numb. It doesn't mean you never feel a reaction. It means you don't automatically obey that first reaction. You notice it. You breathe. You give yourself a tiny bit of space, because that space is where your authority lives. Being bothered is just an unexamined reaction, and reaction is the doorway through which control enters. Control rarely announces itself. It doesn't say, "I want to control you." It sounds more reasonable than that. It sounds like, "After everything I've done for you," or "If you really cared, you would," or even "I just thought you were better than that." Notice how none of these are direct commands. They are emotional levers. They introduce guilt, doubt, and obligation. And suddenly, you are no longer choosing freely. You are choosing to escape discomfort. Imagine this. You've already decided not to attend a gathering. You need rest. But someone says, "It's important to the family." Everyone will ask where you are. Nothing about that sentence is aggressive. But now, your nervous system activates. You begin defending yourself in your own mind. You begin justifying. And if you go, not because you want to, but because you feel pressured, that is control, not forced. Triggered. This is how subtle manipulation works, not through strength, but through your unexamined desire to avoid disapproval. The first Stoic move is simple. Do nothing. Not permanently, just immediately. When someone applies pressure, your body reacts before your mind does. Your shoulders tighten, your jaw hardens, your breathing shortens. And in that state, whatever you say next will not come from clarity. It will come from defense. So the first act of self-respect is not a clever response. It is a pause. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you always have the option of not having an opinion about something. Immediately. That space between stimulus and response is where your freedom lives. When someone says, "After all I've done for you," instead of answering, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Let your shoulders drop. Take one slow breath. Control begins when reaction begins. And it ends when reaction slows. This pause is small, but it is the moment you reclaim authorship over your behavior. After you pause, there is a second step. Quietly ask yourself, What are they trying to make me feel? Not what are they saying, but what are they trying to trigger? Is it guilt? Is it the fear of being judged, or the fear of losing approval? Most manipulation does not operate through logic. It operates through emotion. If someone says, everyone else agreed. The hook is not agreement. The hook is the fear of isolation. If someone says, I guess I just can't rely on you. The hook is not reliability. The hook is guilt. When you name the hook internally, something shifts. You stop arguing with the words, and you start observing the mechanism. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. When someone applies pressure, your imagination runs ahead. You imagine conflict. You imagine rejection. You imagine consequences. Naming the hook interrupts that spiral. It turns emotion into information. And information does not control you. Unexamined emotion does. Now we shift into one of the most important behavioral leaks, over-explaining. This is where many mature men lose quiet authority, not through anger, but through justification. Once you recognize the hook, there is another temptation, to justify your decision so thoroughly that no one can question it. But here is the problem. When you over-explain, you signal doubt. You communicate that your choice requires permission. Imagine saying, I can't attend because I've been very busy, and work has been overwhelming, and I just need rest, and I promise I'll make it next time. Notice the tone. There is an undercurrent of apology. Now compare that with, I won't be attending. I need rest. Clear, calm, complete. You lose control when you start arguing your position emotionally. The other person senses movement, negotiation, leverage. Epictetus reminded his students, if someone speaks ill of you and it is true, correct yourself. If it is false, ignore it. He did not say debate endlessly. You do not need to win the emotional courtroom. You need to remain aligned with your judgment. When your no is steady, it does not require decoration. And steadiness is very difficult to manipulate. There is an important distinction here. Being unbothered does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you withdraw or become emotionally unavailable. That is not strength. That is avoidance. To be unbothered means you care, but you are not ruled. You listen. You consider. You remain open. But your emotional state is not dictated by someone else's tone. Marcus Aurelius led an empire during war, betrayal, and political chaos. He did not become numb. He became measured. He felt anger, but he chose response over reaction. There is a difference between I don't care what you think and I care, but I will decide. The first is defensive pride. The second is inner authority. When you stay unbothered, you are not shutting people out. You are keeping yourself intact. And intact men, though, are very difficult to control. Every time you react impulsively, you are training people how to move you. If guilt works once, it will be used again. If the fear of conflict works once, it will be used again. If explaining yourself at length works once, it will be used again. You are not just responding to one situation. You are establishing a pattern. And patterns create expectations. The one who explains too much teaches others that his choices are negotiable. The one who reacts emotionally teaches others that his feelings are leverage. The one who gives in under pressure teaches others that pressure works. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But here is what he did not say. We suffer more in repetition than in single events. One reactive moment is a mistake. 1,000 reactive moments is a reputation. And reputation becomes identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who cannot say no, who cannot hold boundaries, who cannot stay calm. This is not about one interaction. This is about who you become. When you protect your long-term stability, something shifts. People sense it before they even understand it. Respect quietly rises. Earlier, I told you I would give you a simple sentence. Here it is. I understand that this matters to you, and I'm still choosing differently. This sentence does 4 things at once. It acknowledges, but it does not surrender. It respects, but it does not negotiate. It shows you heard them, but it keeps your decision steady. If someone says, "After all I've done for you," you respond, "I understand that this matters to you, and I'm still choosing differently." No explanation, no argument, no emotional escalation, just clarity. When delivered calmly, without tension in your body, it ends the negotiation. Epictetus taught that we cannot control what others do, but we can control what we consent to. This sentence is non-consent, not aggressive, not defensive, just "I hear you, I choose differently." Because control requires movement, and this is stillness. Techniques matter. The pause matters. Naming the hook matters. The sentence matters. But none of them work consistently without something deeper: internal authority. Internal authority means this: your decisions are guided by your values, not by immediate emotional weather. You are willing to disappoint someone temporarily in order to remain aligned long-term. You are willing to endure a moment of tension without collapsing into appeasement. Marcus Aurelius wrote privately to himself, not to impress others, but to remind himself who he intended to be. That is internal authority. It is self-governance. When someone tries to control you, they are testing one thing: are you anchored, or are you movable? Movable men seek comfort. Anchored men seek alignment. Comfort feels good in the moment. Alignment builds strength over time. The goal is not to defeat people. The goal is to remain yourself in their presence. And that is a different kind of power. It is easier to stay unbothered with strangers. It is harder when the pressure comes from someone close to you, a partner, a sibling, a parent, because now the hook is deeper. You are not just managing discomfort, you are managing connection. When someone you care about says, "If you loved me, you would," the tension is no longer about the request. It is about the relationship. And this is where many men collapse into compliance, not because they are weak, but because they confuse agreement with loyalty. Seneca wrote that we must love, but we must love with the awareness that we do not control others, and they do not control us. Healthy relationships allow disagreement. Unhealthy ones require emotional submission. Staying unbothered in close relationships does not mean becoming rigid. It means you remain calm even when someone you love is disappointed. You allow their emotion without absorbing it. You allow tension without rushing to eliminate it. Because love without boundaries becomes quiet resentment. And resentment is the cost of constant self-abandonment. When someone applies pressure, most escalation happens through tone, not words. You may say the right sentence, but if your jaw is tight, if your voice sharpens, if your posture becomes rigid, the conversation turns into a contest, and contests invite force. To hold your ground without escalation, regulate your body first. Slow your breathing, relax your shoulders, let your face remain neutral, not blank, neutral. This is not passivity. It is control. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that when confronted by difficult people, he could choose not to resemble them. That choice begins in the body. Speak slightly slower than feels natural. Lower your volume slightly instead of raising it. Maintain eye contact, but not aggressively. When your nervous system is steady, your words carry weight without force. And when there is no emotional spike to push against, many attempts at control lose momentum, because escalation requires friction, and you are no longer providing it. Here is something important to understand. When you stop reacting the way someone expects, they may increase the pressure. If guilt no longer works, it may become frustration. If frustration doesn't work, it may become accusation. This does not mean your calm has failed. It means the old strategy is losing its effectiveness. And losing strategies often intensify before they disappear. Someone might say, "So that's it? You just don't care?" Or, "You've changed." Or even, "You're being selfish." In that moment, your nervous system will want to defend your character, to prove you are still kind, still loyal, still good. But this is the final hook. If you rush to restore their comfort, you abandon your alignment. Epictetus taught that if someone calls you foolish, and you know you are not foolish, the insult does not land unless you accept it. Not every accusation requires correction. Sometimes it only requires endurance, calm endurance, because when you remain steady under increased pressure, something powerful happens. The storm exhausts itself. And what remains is clarity. When you practice calm endurance, steady boundaries, and inner regulation consistently, life begins to change. Not because the world bends to you, but because you bend less to the world. People notice, not in loud praise, but in subtle ways. A colleague stops trying to manipulate your schedule because they've learned your time is steady. Respected, immovable. A partner stops guilt-tripping because they see you do not collapse under emotional pressure. Even casual acquaintances approach you differently because your calm signals that their usual pressure tactics are simply ineffective. This is quiet authority. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that a ruler's power comes less from force and more from consistency and reason. Your power in life is the same. Not loud, not flashy, not coercive, just steady. Because when you are unbothered, you create a space where others must engage with you honestly, and you preserve your own inner peace. This is the Stoic path. You will not be perfect. You will be tempted. You will feel the old pull of guilt, shame, or expectation. But each time you return to calmness, each time you choose alignment over reaction, you reinforce the habit. You build the life you want, one measured, one self-directed, one grounded in clarity. All of this, calm endurance, inner regulation, quiet authority, sounds good in theory. But how do you actually practice it today? Start small. Notice when someone is attempting to influence you. Maybe it's a colleague assigning last-minute tasks. Maybe it's a family member making a passive-aggressive remark. Step 1, pause. Before responding, take a breath. Let your shoulders drop. Step 2, name the influence. Ask yourself, what are they trying to make me feel? What outcome are they seeking? Step 3, respond with alignment, not with force, not with anger, not with over-explanation. Respond with clarity. For example, a colleague says, "I need you to finish this tonight." Your calm response, "I understand. I'll get it done by tomorrow morning." Notice how this neither rejects the request nor fully surrenders to the pressure. It is quiet, neutral authority. Another example, a family member says, "After all I've done for you, you can't help me with this?" Your mind may rush to guilt, shame, or justification. Instead, pause, breathe, relax. Then respond calmly, "I hear you. I'll help where I can, but I need to respect my own boundaries too." No defensiveness. No emotional overinvestment. Notice how this subtly shifts the dynamic. Because when you act from alignment rather than reaction, others learn that their attempts at control no longer work. Over time, these small, consistent practices compound into real-life, unbothered authority, and that is how you stay calm, unshaken, and steady, no matter who tries to push you. The first step to staying unbothered is noticing control attempts early, before they ever reach your mind. Manipulation often starts quietly, a comment that sows doubt, a subtle guilt trip, an expectation disguised as a request. These are the small levers people use to shape your behavior. Awareness is your shield. When you catch it early, you stop it from escalating. Ask yourself, what is this person trying to make me feel? Is this about me, or is it about them? Most control attempts are actually about their needs, their fears, or their insecurities, not about you. For instance, a colleague subtly says, "You never volunteer for extra tasks like the rest of us." Your instinct might be guilt or defensiveness. Instead, pause, breathe, step back, respond calmly, "I contribute where I can, and I will take on what is reasonable." Notice how early recognition prevents the fire from spreading. Another example, a partner says, "You don't care about me if you don't." Before the frustration builds, identify the lever. This is about their fear of being ignored. It is not a reflection of your value. Pause, breathe, respond aligned to your boundaries. By training your awareness, you become a calm observer. You are no longer reacting emotionally, you are choosing how to respond. And over time, this early recognition creates a buffer, a mental space, where you are in control, not them. Awareness alone isn't enough. You also need boundaries. But understand this, boundaries are not about punishing others. They are about protecting your inner calm. A boundary is simply an expectation, plus a consequence, not a demand, not a lecture, not an emotional appeal. For example, a friend calls you late at night for a favor. You feel your calm slipping. A boundary would be, "I'm happy to help, but I don't take calls after 9 p.m. If it's urgent, you can text me, and I'll respond in the morning." Notice what happens here. You acknowledge their need. You protect your energy. You communicate clearly, and you communicate calmly. Another scenario, a colleague repeatedly pushes your workload beyond reason. You say, "I can handle these tasks by Friday, but I won't be able to take on additional work until then." No argument, no over-apology, no drama. Boundaries are quiet authority in action. And here's the key. Boundaries are only effective if you consistently enforce them. If you waver, the control dynamic returns. If you hold them steadily, you teach others, "I value myself. My time is mine. My calm is non-negotiable." This is the Stoic approach. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Boundaries are the practical extension of this principle. They allow you to stay unbothered, under diamandi, even when someone tries to pull your strings. Boundaries work, but people often resist them. Your friend gets defensive. Your colleague complains. A family member tries to use guilt. This is where many men lose their calm. But staying unbothered doesn't mean avoiding conflict. It means managing your reaction and maintaining your clarity. First, pause and breathe. Notice your body. Are your shoulders tensing? Is your heart racing? Take a slow breath and remind yourself, their reaction is about them, it is not about you. Second, acknowledge without absorbing. Say, "I hear that you're frustrated. Here is what I can do within my limits." Notice how this validates their feeling without surrendering your ground. Third, do not over-explain. The more you justify, the more openings you give them to manipulate your emotions. Keep your words minimal. Keep them calm. Keep them factual. Finally, decide when to disengage. Sometimes true unbotheredness is strategic detachment. You don't have to argue. You don't have to win. You simply remain calm, aligned, and steady, regardless of how they react. Remember Marcus Aurelius, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. Pushback is a test of your internal authority. By remaining composed, you win, not by controlling them, but by controlling yourself. This is the heart of staying unbothered. Not everyone who tries to control you is evil. Some are insecure, some are afraid, some simply learned manipulation as a survival strategy. But understanding that does not require you to surrender your peace. When someone tries to pull your strings, remember, you don't have to fight. You don't have to convince. You don't have to prove. You only have to remain steady. The Stoics never promised a world without difficult people. They promised something better, a mind that remains unshaken. When you recognize manipulation for what it is, when you pause instead of react, when you set boundaries without anger, and when you stay calm during the pushback, you step into a different kind of power. Not loud power, not dominant power, but quiet authority. And quiet authority changes everything, because the person who cannot be emotionally steered, cannot be controlled. You stop being an emotional puppet. You stop performing for approval. You stop shrinking just to keep others comfortable. Instead, you become grounded. You become centered. You become difficult to disturb. And that is freedom. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet his greatest victory was ruling himself. If you can master your reactions, no one can dominate your inner world. Not with guilt, not with pressure, not with emotional games. So, the next time someone tries to control you, don't argue, don't panic, don't over-explain. Just breathe, stand firm, and remain unbothered. Because your calm is your power, and power that doesn't need to shout cannot be taken. If this resonated with you, stay with this philosophy, because in the next video, we'll explore something even deeper: how to stay calm when the manipulation comes from family. Until then, protect your peace, guard your mind, and remember, you always control your response.